And
Shalom, everyone. It's Avi Lipkin here in Israel. Actually, I'm not in my home in Kedar. I'm at my son Aaron's house in Ofra. And without wasting too much time, I will just say that we are having a Feast of Tabernacles meal with our prospective in-laws, or shall I say, in-laws of my grandson. So my grandson's getting married. And my official blessing to my grandson was, I don't care if you get married or if you don't get married, but I want great grandchildren. So everyone laughed. So anyway, so I said, I'll change the diapers. It's okay. I have a lot of experience. So anyway, so I excused myself. Rachel is still sitting with them. And I'm here with all of you, and praise God, good to be here. As for what's going on here in the Middle East, as you all know, a lot has been going on. And I will start with the most recent, and that is, of course, you all know that Secretary of State Blinken is in Jerusalem with Netanyahu, and Hochstein is in Beirut, as usual, up to his futile efforts to reach a ceasefire. Basically, Israel would not mind having a ceasefire with Hezbollah on the condition that they would adopt, that Hezbollah would adopt UN Resolution 1559, which says, forget about 1701. 1559 says that all of the militias have to give up their weapons, and there should be no such thing as Hezbollah demanding that Lebanon do this or Lebanon do that. And so we're going to see how that all develops. And of course, with Hamas, the war could be over in a minute if our people were released. But Hamas seems it is not interested in ending the war. Hamas is interested in getting 600 terrorists with blood on their hands released. And we still don't even know who's alive of our hostages and who's not alive. So Israel is knocking off the terrorist leadership one by one. And we're hoping, for God's sake, that some of these terrorists will have some God fear in them and stop the war. And the way to stop the war is to release the terrorists. Regarding the elimination of Yahya Sinwar, there are a number of conspiracy theories floating around. But the good news is that a group of corporal trainees found him. Some people say, well, it was a coincidence. No, it wasn't a coincidence. We knew where he was. The top Israeli military leadership was doing everything that it could not to get Sinwar annihilated. They wanted to keep him alive. Washington wanted to keep him alive. But these corporals in a training course found him and killed him. Praise God for the training course. At least the lower level soldiers don't have political motivations here or there. So now we just have to see what can we do, maybe to negotiate a slightly better deal and get our 101 hostages out, dead or alive. It seems around half are still alive, the other half are not. So we will see where that goes. But one of the things we see indeed is that the morale of the Hamas is collapsing. A lot of the Hamas terrorists are surrendering. I'm not there, so I don't know who's doing what. There are those Hamas terrorists who keep fighting. There are those Hezbollah terrorists who keep fighting. So the Israeli military keeps doing what it has to do. So, but we are very pleased, and this shows in the polls. Netanyahu is more popular now than ever because all of these terrorists who supposedly could not be killed, could not be found, have all been killed. They were found and killed. One of the things that we are concerned about in Israel is that Biden if Kamala Harris wins or loses, Biden still can do what Obama did to us a few years ago when he was a lame duck, which was to condemn Israel at the United Nations. So we're very afraid that Israel will be condemned again after the November 5th elections, especially if President Trump gets reelected. So we're very concerned because there's still 2.5 months until January 20th after the elections, in which the Democrats can do some very serious damage to Israel. And there are many people saying that the Democratic administration, even if they lose the elections November 5th, are still capable of causing Israel tremendous damage. And so we're all watching this very closely. As you probably know from past Zooms, my son Aaron helped to organize 100 votes for Trump, absentee ballots here in Israel. He didn't say any more, but from what I understand, he did have 100 ballots sent to the United States. And we're hoping it'll make we're hoping there's no need for the ballots, but I'm sure people are going to be watching very carefully in this election, that the election should not get stolen, if I may say again. I have to tell you a little family story, but yesterday we were in the sukkah of my all these in-law businesses are getting me confused. The mother-in-law of my grandson, who's here also now, we were at her brother's house in Kedar, where we live, and there was an American young man there who was 23 and didn't speak any Hebrew, so I basically had to be with him the whole time. Rachel also. And he's from San Diego, and he's a beekeeper. And he said they have a good business. They raise bees, they collect the honey, they sell the honey in San Diego. And this is not bees from agricultural areas. These are, local bees. They're not affected by the pesticides. They're doing very well. And he's here already a month, and he's checking out the possibilities of he and his family moving to Israel. And Israel has a very, very developed bee industry. And I said to him, I will help him if he decides with his mom and dad to move to Israel. And then we started talking politics. And I said, I'm very fearful for a Holocaust in the United States because the Jewish people in America are in great danger from the Muslim agenda, from the neo-Nazi agenda and the militias, from the Black Lives Matter agenda, from the Antifa agenda. There are 4 groups out there that want to kill the Jews. And the only people who won't listen to what I'm saying are the Jews. So this is like Germany in the 1930s, where in Germany, the Jews were saying, oh, it'll never happen in Germany. And it happened. So he asked me, when do you think this civil war is going to happen in the States? I said, well, if they kill Trump, God forbid, there'll be civil war. Or if they steal the elections again, there'll be a civil war. He said, so you're talking about a month from now? I said, yes, it's imminent. And I mean, I pray to God Trump wins. I pray to God there won't be any intervention or any cheating. I pray he doesn't get assassinated. I mean, these are the things we talk about in Israel. We're very concerned that Kamala Harris, who is an extremely, extremely dangerous woman, I don't have to tell you what you already know about Kamala Harris, but what we also see is that it seems like Trump is winning in the polls now by 60 to 40. It's not anymore neck to neck. But we're very concerned because crazy things can happen in America today before the elections or leading up to the elections. So here in Israel, we are very, very concerned that the elections will be legal. If they are legal, we are very confident that Trump is going to win the elections, and Trump will stand with us. But regarding the situation with, first I have to say, regarding the situation in Gaza, President Biden insisted that Israel not go into Gaza after the October 7th massacre. We went into Gaza. Then he said they don't want Israel. The United States government does not want Israel to go into Khan Yunis, and we went into Khan Yunis. By the way, Sinwar is from Khan Yunis. Then he said we don't want you to go into Rafah. We went into Rafah. Everything is don't, and basically we're not listening to Biden. Then we went into the Philadelphia corridor on the Egyptian border. We are now fortifying it. We are paving highway roads along the Egyptian border, and we're going to make sure to it that it's sealed tight, that the Hamas terrorists cannot cross the border into Egypt or smuggle weapons in from Egypt. And everything President Biden said was don't. Kamala Harris is saying don't. And so one of the fears we have is that President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, even if they lose the elections, they will be working to punish Israel for not listening to them. There is talk of American government revenge against Israel. That's also one of the reasons why it's very important that the American Christian public, Jewish public also, should stand with Israel. An interesting point is that the support of the Jews for the Republicans has grown to 40% as opposed to 60% for the Democrats. That's the highest percentage which is pro-Republican in history. So I think the Jews in America are learning a lesson, but still it's 60% pro-Democrat. And we are very concerned here in Israel about an anti-Semitic pogrom or Holocaust against the Jewish people in America, which, in my opinion, will lead to massive immigration to Israel of Jews, but not only Jews, but also of Christian spouses and family members who will make Aliyah with the Jewish nuclear members. I personally believe that our population will grow by double. In other words, it will go from 10 million altogether to 20 million. It could take a few years, but we may be seeing 10 cities in Israel of Jewish refugees from America who realize the time has come for the Jewish people in America to pick up and leave and move to Israel. So people still think I'm a little nutcase in that sense, which is fine. But I think this is what's going to happen. We took out Sinwar, we took out Nasrallah, we took out all these terrorists, some of them Iranian. Nobody believed we could do it. Biden and Harris told us not to go into Beirut. We went into Beirut. They told us not to invade Lebanon. We invaded Lebanon. So Israel is doing what Israel has to do. And the American government under the Democrats has been wrong every time. Inept, and if I may say so, stupid, ignorant Democratic leadership that does not understand the Middle East at all. And I don't want to be arrogant, but I've been here 55 years. And as a former employee in the Prime Minister's office under Yitzhak Shamir, and also as an Israeli army spokesman for 14 years, I think it's, and having Rachel as a wife, I think it's fair to say that I'm not naive like I was when I came here 55 years ago. And so we're watching everything very carefully. Now we're waiting for the war with Iran, which has to happen. And one of the things, that we were saying that Biden wanted to punish Israel is that we do things in spite of the don't. So Israel tries to, it decided that it might be a smart thing to coordinate our attack on Iran with the US State Department and with the president. So what happens? The US State Department comes out and makes public all the secret documents that we've given them regarding Iran. So the war with Iran has to be postponed so that new targets will be prepared, new dates will be prepared. These attacks require a lot of simulation, a lot of preparation. Everything has to be completely syncretic. But I think it was kind of alluded to in the Israeli media that Israel cannot reveal to the American government anymore after this betrayal by the American government what we are going to do or not do, and in Iran. And actually, one of the things the U.S. government permitted us to do is to take out the leadership of Iran. And this is something we have done successfully in Gaza and in Lebanon. Another subject, which is very important, is that through different intelligence sources, we found out that the Hezbollah warriors, we found out where their money is. We found out where their financing, their funding is. And so the Israeli Air Force yesterday and the day before bombed all of these strategic money centers, banks in Lebanon. And so now we're hoping that this will deny the Hezbollah terrorists the funding they need to continue the war. In other words, really what we all want, and what the Americans want also, is that the war stop. But the way to have the war stop on our conditions, not so that Hezbollah can reorganize and regroup and come back and hit us again in 2-3 years. And that's one of the reasons why we have to attack Iran, because if we attack Iran, we take out their financial capabilities, and all this money that was sent from Iran to Hezbollah or sent to Gaza, all this money dries up, and so the terrorism dries up. Very important for all these things to be recognizable. So we're all very, very excited that these are all game changers. And one of the crazy things is every time the United States says don't, and we do it, we get attacked by the U.S. administration, even under the Republicans. If you remember, President Ronald Reagan, who personally is my favorite president, punished Israel for attacking the Iraqi nuclear installation, Osirak, in 1981, 82. Then Deir ez-Zor in Syria, Olmert, Prime Minister then Olmert gave the orders to destroy the nuclear reactor in Syria, and we were condemned. But after we did these things, the American military and the American government says, well, actually, what Israel did was a favor to all of us. Now, the up-and-coming Canadian premier, who's still the opposition leader, says that if Israel attacks Iran, takes out the nuclear project, this is Israel's gift to humanity. So there are people who don't compromise on that which is right. So we're watching to see what happens with Iran. Like I said, Blinken is in Jerusalem, Hochstein is in Lebanon, and my guess is we're waiting for these two gentlemen to leave. I mean, we don't want to attack Iran when these people are here. You never know, maybe Biden will come to Israel. So again, Biden's coming to Israel causes us to postpone an attack on Iran. But I think it has to be done. I mean, I'm nobody, but the people who make the decisions are in the media all the time saying that this is something that the Israeli government has to do. And it will be a gift to the humanity and to the Israeli people also. So we are all here. We're kind of in the quiet before the storm. Because Netanyahu said we're not going to attack when the Iranians expect us to attack. We're going to attack when it's the best time for Israel to attack. So, but like I said before, I'm very, very happy. Hania was killed, and Nasrallah, and Sinwar, and Shuruk, and there are all kinds of crazy terrorist leaders who had to be taken out. They were taken out. So these are all good preparations for the final showdown with Iran. And we're hoping once the final showdown with Iran takes place, there will be no more funding, no more support for the terrorist groups in Lebanon, no more terrorist support for Gaza. Who knows? Maybe it'll be a game changer. I think these are all strategic game changers. And so we're okay. Rachel and I are, like I said many times in the past, we're always monitoring the radio and TV broadcasts. Um, and so for now, we are relatively at peace, except for the north of Israel. North of Israel is getting shelled constantly from Lebanon. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Any questions?
Avi, it seems that the Democrats' favorite country is Iran. And I do wonder about this leak, if it was deliberate, in your opinion. We can all read the news articles and are familiar with the narrative that the news puts on it, that Israel should stop for various humanitarian reasons. What is your opinion about all of the above? In other words, why Iran, why Israel should stop, all those kind of things.
Well, basically, we are dependent on the United States for our weapons, our munitions. And if we don't do what America says, the minimum, which is the humanitarian aid, the munitions and weapons will be choked off by the U.S. administration. I'm not talking about the U.S. military. The U.S. military stands totally with Israel, but the United States military has to do what the commander-in-chief tells them to do. What the media did say about the leak regarding the timing and the targets of the attack on Lebanon, the media said that actually what happened was that Israeli military, I don't want to say military leaders, minor Israeli bureaucrats were the ones who revealed the documents to Washington. And so actually Israel is to blame for revealing the documents. And these are people who hate Netanyahu. These are people who want to see Israel fail so that Netanyahu can be blamed. One of the interesting things is that every time a terrorist leader gets eliminated, the left wing in Israel bites bites down on their teeth because they cannot stand the idea of Netanyahu actually doing something right. But it's not just Netanyahu, it's all of the Israeli military. They want to see this brought to a proper resolution. But there are, excuse me for saying it, there are traitors in certain levels of the Israeli military who prefer that Israel fail so that Netanyahu can be blamed. And these people want new elections, and they see the new elections and the deposing of Netanyahu is more important than this or that tactical victory. The Netanyahu popularity in Israel is, every time there's a successful attack, the Netanyahu administration gets higher and higher in the polls. Today, the polls in Israel are about 67 members of Knesset to 53. So even if you take out the 10 Arab votes, it means 43 are the socialists, the left-wing people. But the pro-Israel Likud and religious parties are 67, 68 members of Knesset out of 120. So like I said before, those of us who are right-wing, and God in heaven knows how I was punished by the left wing in Israel. Why have I been in Christian churches now for 35 years? Because I was banned from any employment in Israel by the socialist left. So, I feel vindicated by God that Israel is succeeding and successfully dealing and eliminating the terrorists. I think maybe in the United States also there are people who say, well, shucks, these Israelis, they're not doing what is good for Kamala Harris to be elected. And, my response is, what's more important, Israel's survival or Kamala Harris? So obviously for the Democrats or certain Democrats, Kamala Harris is more important. So we'll have to see what happens. November 5th is only 2 weeks away, maybe less. So we shall see where this all goes.
Thanks,
Questions?
Avi. Do
Yeah.
you have an opinion as to why Iran seems to be continually propped up? Do you have an opinion by the Democrats?
Um, I think that one of the problems is denial. I think that the Iranians have spent so much money on arming Hamas and they lost everything. Arming Hezbollah, they lost everything, or they're in the process of losing everything. And I don't know. I think that if I have it correct, President Obama sent I don't know if it's hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, plane loads full of cash to the Iranians, and Biden has sent $1 billion in cash to the Palestinians. Um, United Nations and UNRWA have become proxies. Um, Proxies to I get messages, so I read them, and I forget my track of thought. Um,
Sorry.
no, it's okay. Just wait till I make a point, then go ahead and ask any question you want. But when I
Yeah.
see something, a blip popping up, I got to see what it says, then I forget what I'm going to say. So Iran, I think, is all puffed up um, because they thought all along, Iran thought all along that they were invincible. And it turns out that Iran is a paper tiger. And one of the things that we know in Israel is that they could be overthrown by the people in a very quick time. Very quick time. So Israel is biding its time. Israel is, to the best of its ability, trying to coordinate everything with the U.S. military and the U.S. government. But in the end, Israel does what Israel has to do for its own good, for its own purposes. What did you want to ask, Claire?
Sorry, I was just asking if the 5th was when they vote, because obviously I'm not in America, but I follow some of it.
Yeah.
And
It's
Laurie said yes.
November 5th.
Yeah,
November 5th. So we're 2 weeks away.
yeah.
But again, Claire, one of the problems we face is something called lame duck. And I don't know if you heard of that, but lame duck is a very popular American term that from the 5th of November to the 20th of January, there's a period of 2.5 months that the president, even if he lost the election, he can still do whatever he wants. And one of our fears is that the United Nations will bring hostile decisions before the United Nations, and the U.S. will not give a veto. And
Yeah.
without the American veto, these anti-Israel decisions can be passed, leading to worldwide sanctions against Israel.
Yeah.
So this would be a very severe punishment for Israel from the United States if President Biden and Kamala Harris decide to do this. So, I mean, we do what we have to do. I think it's a given that the Israeli military must act now before the elections. But what happens later is a lame duck president might do things against Israel.
Right, yeah.
Avi, what's the next step for Gaza? And will Jews move in and rebuild neighborhoods there?
Well, this is an interesting point. There are many Israelis who are adamant not to go back into Gaza, but just as many from the right wing who say, yes, we have to go back into Gaza because we made a mistake by handing it over we didn't hand it over to the Hamas, we handed it over to the PLO. Then the PLO was thrown out of third floor story windows when Hamas took over, and Hamas killed all these PLO operatives. And meanwhile, our former Prime Minister Ariel Sharon called on the withdrawal of the Jewish communities in Gaza, and it was all a mistake. We lost about 12 people per year because of terrorism in Gaza. But on October 7th, we lost 2,000 people. So many Israelis from the right wing and I'm with them. Yes, we should resettle Gaza. And the more we resettle Gaza, the more we squeeze the Hamas, the more they will give up. They will not be able to act against us when the Jewish settlements are set up. 10,000 Jews were evicted by force from Gaza. Same applies to Lebanon. We didn't ask for this fight with Lebanon. It was forced on us. And we've been in Lebanon 3 times before, in 1978, in 1982, and of course in 2006. 3 wars in which each time we take Lebanon, and the United States and the United Nations forces us to withdraw from Lebanon, only to be forced to go back into war against Lebanon a few years later. So I personally support the expansion of the Israeli borders according to the needs of the country. At this point, we're talking about the south of Lebanon. We're talking about the areas which had been settled by Jewish people in Gaza. They should be resettled. And say to the Arabs, you had your chance, you blew it, and we're not going to give land up anymore. There will never be a Palestinian state, by the way. Anyone in the U.S. administration that thinks about a Palestinian state is mentally ill. American voters also need to think about who they're voting for, because I don't know what Trump's position is on a Palestinian state or a 2-state solution, but the Democrats are so insistent on something which can never be. So I think Americans deserve a government that is not fantasizing about a mental illness. Islam is a mental illness, and there will never be peace with them as long as there's Islam. Some people have condemned me for saying that if we nuke the black stone in Mecca, that'll be cutting off the head of the snake of Islam. There'll be no more Islam. And my message in the church is bring them to the Lord, or they'll bring you to the sword, because the God of Islam is the sword, and the God of the Christians is the Lord. And we Jews and Christians will work it out somehow. But obviously, nobody takes it seriously. Though it's in my books, I've said these things many times. I think also America will be hit by Islamic terrorism. And when George W. Bush said after 9/11, oh, Islam is a religion of love, and we all pray to the same God, and God and Allah are the same, it's nonsense. And the Pope says that also. Completely crazy. And the Pope goes and kisses the Quran in a mosque. The Quran is the book of Satan. How can the Catholics do that? So I love the Catholics, but the leadership is messed up. So I'm hoping that I'm looking at this as the new wars of the Crusades, but this time the Jews will be the allies of the Christians. I know my message is not popular with the official Israeli stance. I'm doing these Zooms for free. I'm not being paid by the Israeli government. There's some good people who help out sometimes financially, but it's not about the money. It's about getting out a certain idea. And if you believe, if you're a Christian and you believe that Jesus Christ is returning to send the devil to the pits of hell for 1,000 years, I ask you, what's the 1,000 years, and where's the Jesus sending the devil to? He's sending the devil to Mecca. And 1,000 years in those deserts, that's really hell. So, and I believe it's absolutely essential that we have a Judeo-Christian alliance for this. But my message is radical. Very often, you know what? Winston Churchill was radical. For 3 years, the U.S. did not support England in the war against the Nazis. And Churchill said, on the beaches and in the air, on the ground, we're going to fight Hitler to the end. And the U.S. was not even with England. And the Nazis were very popular in New York City and Long Island. So many times it takes a crazy guy like me to say things as I understand them, and not to bow down to political correctness. I have to tell you also, I'm a history buff. So President Wilson in the United States did not bring America into World War I until 1917. And meanwhile, the British sacrificed all their young people for this war against Kaiser. 3 years out of 4 years, America was not even in World War I. World War II, the first 3 years, America was not in World War II. And again, the British and the Commonwealth fought against Hitler. And finally, America came in again because America was attacked by the Germans and by the Japanese. There were people in the British government like Lord Halifax and Chamberlain and others who were saying that Winston Churchill should be put up against the wall and shot for saying derogatory things about our brotherly German brothers, you know, in the Nazi Germany. There were quite a few English people who did not like Churchill for standing up and calling Hitler a gutter snipe. Yeah, I mean, I've read the books. I know who said what. Churchill was a great man, and Churchill saved the human race. So now we have this situation with Islam, whether it's Gaza, whether it's Lebanon, whether it's Iran. You know, that's not all. You've got a country like Pakistan who's biding its time. Pakistan has nuclear weapons, and they want to use them against India. And they're saying, you know, we will help Iran with nuclear weapons if need be. And Turkey is ready to go to war with Israel at any time. And Egypt could go to war with Israel a fifth time again. These people have what they call a religion. It's not a religion. It's a criminal psychosis bent on the destruction of the human race. But the Jews first on Saturday, the Christians second on Sunday. So what's the solution? The solution is to cut off the head of the snake. And the head of the snake is Mecca. And I hate to say it, but anyone who knows anything about Islamic background, the Kaaba was a place of idol worship and all kinds of incestuous and child-burning crazy behavior. And then all of a sudden Muhammad said, you know, well, we won't do this and we won't do that. We'll just do certain other things. But if the bottom line of Islam is kill the Jew on Saturday and kill the Christian on Sunday, bomb Mecca. Because Western civilization, Judeo-Christian Western civilization and democracy are based on the blessing that God gave to Abraham and through Abraham to all the nations of the world, which is the Jews and the Christians. Also India. India is a Hindu country. It's a pagan country. A lot of Christians have a problem with the conflict between Christianity and Hinduism in India. But Hindu India is the biggest democracy in the world. It's 1 billion people who believe in a Judeo-Christian democratic system. So I have a great admiration for the Indians, and I'm hoping that I think Modi understands that, Narendra Modi. So we'll see where that all goes. But at this stage, we're doing really pretty good, I think, considering. I know Israel will be happy with a ceasefire once Hamas lays down its arms and releases our hostages, and once Hezbollah lays down its arms. And UN resolutions 1559 and 1701 talk about the disarming of Hezbollah. And as you all know, Iran will not stop until it's stopped. So we have to go against Iran. And hopefully the US will be with us. Any other questions?
Yeah, Avi, it's Angela.
Yes, dear.
What do you think Qatari's role is now when they see these senior leadership as
Which
what do you think Qatari's intentions are now?
Qatar is Hamas.
Yes.
Qatar is an evildoer. We allowed Hamas to send money in suitcases to Gaza, hoping this would keep, it would be for the welfare of the people of Gaza. Instead, most of the money went to the tunnels. And same with in Lebanon, the Hezbollah has so much money which could have gone to the saving of Lebanon, to the strengthening of the Lebanese economy, and instead it all went to missiles to attack Israel. I'm telling you, there's no other explanation for this except for Allah is Satan, and those who follow the Islamic way are following Satan. I got a 3-year jail sentence in Switzerland for saying these things. So what? Somebody has to say them.
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to ask about the tunnels. What's happening to the tunnels? Are they filling them in? Are they guarding them? Or what are
I
you
think
doing
some
with
are
the tunnels?
some are being filled in and some are being exploded.
Uh-huh.
And Israel has developed a whole system to destroy these tunnels, whatever way it may be, and not allow them to be used. I will say something I've never mentioned before to all of you, and that is one of the reasons that our former Prime Minister Ariel Sharon had us withdraw from Gaza was because they were digging tunnels underneath army positions and blowing them up to Kingdom Come. And if you had 10 or 20 soldiers in the position, they were all killed because they put in a ton of dynamite. They dug a tunnel, put in a ton of dynamite, and blew the thing up. We knew that they were digging tunnels under the ground towards Jewish settlements in Gaza. And so Ariel Sharon, who's a realist, or thought he was a realist, said, well, we can't fight this. So we should just cut our losses and pull out. But the problem is that that only made things worse. And now we've come to the conclusion that that the tunnels can be stopped. I'll add another thing also. I participated in an Army officer course in 1993, okay? 1993, and we were told then that the Hamas was digging tunnels in Gaza. So 1993 to today is 30 years. So those of us in the military who knew, we all knew it was a 30-year problem, the tunnels. The Hezbollah in Lebanon brought in North Korean companies and German companies to dig tremendous tunnels that trucks could go through. And then they put the rockets inside of these trucks, and they would pull up to the opening of the tunnel, fire the rockets against Israel, and then back up into the tunnels again. So we're finding these tunnels and destroying them one by one. The problem is that the Hezbollah builds these tunnels underneath Christian communities, so that when Israel responds, if Israel doesn't respond in a careful manner, the Christian communities get blown up. Now they found money, $500 million, underneath a hospital in Beirut, and Nasrallah put the money, built bunkers underneath the hospital, so that if the Israelis attack, blame will be on the Israelis for killing innocent people in hospital beds. That's how Hamas works. That's how Hezbollah works. I can only say this is all from the devil. Now, of course, when I speak to Jewish people, nobody wants to hear me say the devil. That's a Christian thing. But you know what? Christianity came out of Judaism. When we pray every day as Jewish people, we ask God to protect us from being seduced by Satan. So why does it say Satan? Because there is a Satan. It's just we don't like to talk about it. Any other questions? By the way, I'm enjoying myself thoroughly talking to you guys.
Avi, do you think the hostages are still in Gaza, or do you think they've been spirited away into Egypt or somewhere?
Personally, the Egyptians don't want Gaza. The Egyptians will not take Gaza. Even my wife told me, even when she was living in Egypt until 1969, it was not possible for people from Gaza to enter Egypt or people from Egypt to visit Gaza. This is a military zone. Nobody could go in or go out. and the Egyptians know what they're dealing with. The Egyptians know who the Gaza terrorists are. Gaza has always had a curse on it. I think eventually the solution is to find host countries to take that population out and take care of them. If they don't want to live in peace with the Jews, they should go live in peace somewhere else.
Avi, I think Angela was asking specifically about the hostages. If do you think they are still in Gaza or if they've been moved somewhere?
Oh, okay. So then I misunderstood. I think that from what it seems, the Gaza hostages, our hostages in Gaza are still there. They are scattered. It's estimated between 40 and 50. They're scattered among different families and different mafia type groups in Gaza. So there's no doubt that there will be a very complicated negotiation process to get these 40 or 50 out, and the dead bodies also get them out. So we shall see where it's all going. I don't know. I'm not involved in the negotiations. I don't know. Are they in Iran? Are they in Sudan? Are they in Egypt? I don't think so. I think they're still in Gaza.
Who is the man that you said that is in Hezbollah from the United States? Who did you mentioned the name? You said that Secretary of State was in Israel. What's his name?
Are you talking about the American diplomat?
Yeah, yeah.
Hochstein. Isn't he mentioned in your news in America?
He might have been, but I don't remember him. How do you spell his name?
Hochstein. Hochstein. And he's been in Lebanon like 15 times already.
And what is his title?
He doesn't have a title. He's an envoy of the president.
Oh.
He's trying to negotiate a diplomatic solution.
Mm-hmm.
He came to Nasrallah before we took out Nasrallah, and he said, you should really go back to 1701. 1701 is the United Nations resolution that Hezbollah would retreat northward. It's about 6 miles away, past the Litani River. And Nasrallah said it'll be easier for the Litani to flow backwards up the mountains than for us to move out of South Lebanon. So you all know what happened to him. Israel is not going to stop until all of the terrorists are out of the south of Lebanon. I'll say another thing also. We have a village which has been bombed and bombed and bombed called Metula. Beautiful town. And they are very close to the beginning of the Litani River. But there's a town about 4 or 5 kilometers away, like 3 miles away. Oh gosh, it skipped my mind now, to the north. And it's north of the Litani. So Israel is going to have to go north of the Litani River. There are rumors that we will have to go up to the Awali River. The Awali River is about another 10 kilometers north. And then after that, you have the Zaharani River. And if they keep fighting us, we're going to keep pushing until we eliminate all these terrorists. And after the Zaharani, we're in the Shuf Mountains and we're going to be in Beirut. We've done it before. We know the geography.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that in Europe and UK, the Muslims are declaring that they've taken over. They're declaring they've taken over London. And the Prime Minister obviously doesn't do anything because he's useless and he's just part of the problem. But they're stepping up now in many countries, Germany, and it's a big problem. So the
Listen,
Christians need to stand up and pray and actually do something about it and get that right mindset. When you read the word of God, you believe it. You believe what's written, but the churches.
well, you raised a very important point. When the United Nations was created, when World War II was over, when the European Union got started, and I've mentioned this before in the past, I'm a stamp collector, so I follow very carefully the history of Europe with my stamp collecting. And you had first Holland, Belgium, and Luxembourg. They formed this union of three little countries. And then it became the 10 country common market. Then it became the European Union. The bottom line of the European Union is 2,000 years of wars are all because of God, all because of the Bible, and all because of Jesus Christ. If you abandon religion, there'll be no more wars on the European continent. And that was actually disproven with the breakup of Yugoslavia, and now with the war between Ukraine and Russia, which are Christian countries. They're Russian Orthodox countries, by the way. But the bottom line is that religion became non grata in Europe. Churches are closing, mosques are replacing them. Yeah. And these people, these Muslims who live according to a 7th century way of thinking, they have never come to this conclusion that war is a bad thing. For them, war is at the heart of jihad. And you're right, as long as Europeans don't know their history, Islam wins. Yeah. Or unless enough blood is spilled, Christian and Jewish blood. So, of course, we're watching that very carefully.
Yeah. Can I just ask about the northern border? Is it the people aren't obviously they're not allowed to go back to the houses yet? Is there anything in sight where it's looking like they'll be able to in the near future?
Well, I think we can take as an example the homes in the Gaza envelope. The envelope in surrounding Gaza, everybody was removed from there because of the rocket bombardments from Gaza. What has happened is Israel has grounded down the military capabilities of Gaza. Gaza is no longer a strategic threat to Israel. So you do have people still who refuse to go back to their homes, but increasingly more and more Israeli citizens living in the Gaza envelope are returning to their homes, rebuilding their homes, fixing up whatever can be fixed. There is a housing project, which is very, very popular. Many people are buying homes now in the Gaza envelope. It will be a very desirable area once Hamas is completely put down. Hamas will be completely put down. Now, regarding Lebanon, we have been told in the media that we've been fighting 3 weeks in the south of Lebanon, and we have 3 more weeks to go before we reach the Litani River. Those 6 miles, 7 miles, will allow certain people to go home. The problem is the short range but extremely dangerous RPG type rockets that can travel 6 miles. They have anti-tank weapons that can travel 6 miles. So after another 3 weeks have gone by, it might be that the more outlying southern Israeli settlements on the Lebanon border will be people will not be forbidden from going back to their homes. A lot of people don't care anymore. They know that the army's doing the job. So people want to go back, fix their homes, fix up their chicken coops, fix up their agriculture, fix up the tourism. And as I said before, if the firing continues from north of the Awali River, from the north of the Litani River, Israel is considering conquering all the way up to the Awali River. We have to make sure these terrorists are completely removed so that the Israeli settlers in the north of Israel can go back to their homes. So we'll wait and see. Nabatea. I just remembered the name. Nabatea is the town just north of Metula by like 3-4 miles. It's very close, and they're constantly bombarding Metula. And this will not stop until the Israeli military goes north 3 miles into Nabatea and destroys the capabilities of the Nasrallah terrorists. Any other questions? With pleasure.
Does it seem like the calm before the storm?
Oh, absolutely. With Iran is the calm before the storm. Meanwhile, Israel is pulverizing Lebanon, pulverizing Gaza. I think it would be fair to say that Israel would not have attacked Iran had we not taken out Lebanon and Gaza first. So we're doing everything step by step with patience, doing everything we can not to lose soldiers, and clear out the area of the tunnels and the terrorists. I think probably in the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I will be able to report back to you that the Israeli settlers are now little by little returning to their homes in the north of Israel. And the people around Gaza are getting their homes back. Will we start moving back to Gaza? I think this can only happen after the war is over. And again, the foolishness of the Arabs not to recognize us and continue the war leaves us no alternative but to do what we have to do.
The villages along the border will be uninhabitable, I assume.
The Lebanese villages.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody will be allowed back.
Okay.
It'll be called the dead zone. Anyone who comes down from the north will be shot.
Okay.
But the Jewish homes have to be rebuilt.
Right. By the way, who set up your shot behind you?
You came in a little later, I think. We're having a family festivity here.
No, I got that. I heard that, but I was curious who set up your shot.
This is my son Aaron's computer.
Okay.
It's pretty nice, huh?
Yeah, it looks lovely. Peaceful.
My computer at home is a little fuzzy in the background, but you can vaguely see 2 canaries jumping back and forth in the cage. And actually, they're not in the cage anymore. I let them out, and only at night I put them back in the cages because I have to cover the cage so they don't get cold. But all day they're flying around and crapping around in my office, and then I have to go clean up. But you know what? I think the birds are happier when they're not locked up.
I'm sure.
And so I'm working on trying to teach them not to be afraid of me. So I have a good time with them. I love my birdies very much.
Oh, good.
One last question, Avi. What about like lone attacks, like single people just, or random attacks in the streets in Israel? Terrorist attacks. Are those on the rise, about the same, or going down? Or we hear about a lot of them.
It varies. It's pretty much the same. One thing that you didn't ask, but I have to tell you, yesterday they were talking in the media about 7 Jewish Israelis who became spies for Iran against Israel. They're in jail now. Today they announced 7 Arab Israelis have been arrested, and they're being interrogated also, working as spies for Iran. So I would guess that there are a lot more terrorists working for Iran who don't go around throwing hand grenades, but they can be doing bad things for Israel. But there are a lot of how shall I say, a lot of calls for the Israeli military to prepare for up to 60 terrorist attacks in Judea and Samaria. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, yes.
When's breakfast?
You missed it.
Next time. Next time.
Speaking of timing though, so you guys, and I don't know about like Claire and Angela, but I know Israel is getting off daylight savings time next weekend,
Yeah.
and the US doesn't go off until a week after.
Yeah, there's always a little difference there.
So next Tuesday, if we keep it sort of tied to New York time or Eastern time, it'll be, I think, 2:30 your time when we do this instead of 3:30.
Yeah. We've done this before.
Yeah. So just a reminder. And
Yeah.
I don't know about Malta and the UK.
I'm one hour behind Israel, so for me it'd be 1:30 then. Yeah, next week. Okay.
So do you guys have daylight saving time there in Malta?
Yes. At the moment, they're saying they're going to scrap it, but they've been talking about it for years now.
Angela just wrote to me that it's 2 hours difference with
Yes.
with
So
England.
they're 1 hour behind Malta. So we've got UK, Malta is there.
Yeah, it's just the difference in when different countries go off of daylight saving time is what causes
Right.
this 1 week weirdness.
Yeah, you're a week different, aren't you? Yeah.
Got to make it more complicated for everybody.
Ah,
So
we
next
can,
week,
we can
the
handle
only
it.
one except Avi stays the same. All right, Avi changes.
Avi
No,
changes, Claire changes, and Angela
everyone
changes.
changes.
The
only
rest of
people who
us
don't
stay the
change-
same time next week, Susan.
The only people who don't change are the Hoosiers from Indiana and I think Arizona.
No, I don't mean change the clock. I mean change the time we're meeting.
Yeah, but the 3:30 becomes 2:30 because everything gets
For Israel. For the United States, we're doing the same time.
Okay, that was my
Yep.
clarity question for everyone because I think everyone's hearing it different. Okay.
Yep. So 8:30
Interesting.
Eastern time. So whatever time it is in New York, that's what everybody needs to look at. 8:30.
Okay.
Okay, looking forward to seeing you all and happy Sukkot and happy Simchat Torah tomorrow. So looking forward to seeing you then.
Shalom, shalom.
Thank
Shalom,
you.
y'all.
Shalom.
Everyone. God bless.
Shalom.